Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today we've got a Bosch 36 volt SDS drill and for repair. This is going to be a how-to video on how to replace the motor on your Bosch 36 volt. This one here is on, the customer says it's running but it keeps slowing down and it's starting to smell. That is a good indication that the motor's gone and needs to be replaced. That or it's not running at all. So this one is the newer Bosch one. This is the GBH 36VF-LI Plus. This isn't the older version. The older one would probably be a little bit more reliable in the long run. This is the newer one, a wee bit more power, but bit better hammer mechanism up in here, but not as good for repairability in the long run for longevity. And I'll show you why on the inside. So this one should be working. She's running and she's hammering, but she's not. It's not running to full force basically. The motor's not running hard enough, and once she's boring a few holes with it, he's saying it's starting to smell here as well. So we'll crack this open and have a little look at the motor inside, see what condition it is and see if it does need to be replaced. So pull off the side handle, just get rid of the chuck for now. I'll undo the screws on the head here and then take the screws out of the body so we can actually open the whole thing up. I'm not saying these are a bad machine. If you need to drill big deep holes all day long, they're one of the few machines, cordless machines you're going to get for it. So if you're like a gas fitter or something like that and you're going through cavity walls all the time, these ones do have the power. But these newer ones just aren't as good for longevity. So to open this, we have to pull out this gearbox a little bit. Pull out these 4 screws first, and then take out these here body screws. Fairly easy to open, a little bit tricky to get closed again. So to open it, grab the gearbox and just gently pull it out. Give it a wee wiggle. You'll start seeing the red seal here. Pull it out a little bit, but don't pull it out the whole way. About that much. All you want is just to clear this here body. With that out a wee bit, you can just pop that off. Now, fairly complicated on the inside, but there ain't very much on here on this side of things. You've got a switch part off your controller unit and your motor, and then the body and a few other wee bits. So this one hasn't actually done all that much, and this is why I don't like these machines anymore. The older version used to have an armature, a universal motor. You could change the brushes on them, which is the main thing. Once the brushes wore out, you just change them, got it running again. You would literally get them in with the armature dished in and worn all the way down to the actual steel. That's how long they ran for. These ones are now a DC motor, a 4-pole DC motor. A little bit more powerful, but a contained unit. So once the brushes wear out here, you have to replace the whole motor. It costs €150 a time. So before you could just pop in a new set of brushes for about €20. Now you have to put in a €150 motor. That's why I don't like these as much. Plus, they're not as good for heat. So if you're using these here heavily, like this man obviously was, you can do this here and tend to burn the motor. If you look down in here, just above the comm bar, there's like a wee section of resin holding on the windings. You can see that's all blackened and discoloured. That's been burning. So heat has basically destroyed this. The motor's still working, but it doesn't have enough power, and it's smoking and stinking whenever it's actually running for too long and overheating. So basically it needs a new motor. And €150, that's an expensive lesson to learn, to be quite honest. Now, if you need a heavy duty SDS drill and you need a cordless, these are one of the best options out there. That or the 36 volt or 40 volt Makitas. These would have been better if they had a stuck with a universal motor. They would have been the best one on the market. But for the big Bosch 36 volt battery, they do the work, but you have to make sure you don't overheat this motor. Whenever the brushes wear out, you will have to replace this. So this is the part you need. You just have to open on this today as well. This is actually the second one of these I've had on today. That's your part number 1607 022 672. I've already had this out because of another one of these in. It's in a wee bit worse condition, and I thought it was the motor. The other one turned out to be the controller. I have to wait for that part to come in. Don't have any more in stock. At least I hope it's just this here. The motor is showing very high ampage when it's running, but they generally do show high ampage whenever you start them off anyway, because they are 36 volt. Hopefully it's just the controller on the other one. That's a little bit cheaper to replace, but still, it's going to still be costing you about 120, 130 euro just for the controller alone. But this one is 150. So I'll stick this into here. So that is your motor unit. One DC motor with 4 brushes on here. You can't replace the brushes, and they're not even all that big, to be quite honest with you. But it is easy to swap because it just drops straight in to the hammer section. The hammer housing up in here just slides in. Well, normally, if they're exposed to a lot of water, this can sometimes rust as well and get jammed onto it. It can be sometimes hard to get out. Hopefully this one will be easy to take out. And the only other thing is you're going to have to yank out all of this. The other thing to watch out for is the battery terminals here, because this motor is actually not done very much. This one's okay, but once they get old, and especially when they've worn through a whole motor, you'll probably find these here contacts starting to wear in and get dented on from the battery contacts actually wearing onto it. That can cause it to start and stop sometimes. So if you're replacing the motor, it might be better to just replace this here battery retainer as well. You can buy this separate from the switch unit. Yank all that out, take out your switch, little lever at the top, pull that out, and that can all come out like that. And you've got your whole switch unit wired on down here. Before we pull all this out, you want to leave this in place so you know where to put these little ferrules here. So try and leave that for now. I'll just take off the hammer section, lift that up, give it a little wiggle, and a pull. Should come out. If that was much older, it would probably be harder to get out. I'm just going to put a wee bit of grease in there to help it for the next time. Leave that as is. The only good thing about these is the hammer section gives very, very little trouble. You barely ever have to open them. This is what all the trouble is. Constantly replacing motors. Before you try to stick it on, try to get the wires roughly where they are on the already installed one. Something like that. This is just to make things easier when you go to reassemble. So this has to be sitting on right. These little brush holders here, there's actually a little square for the top and bottom one to go into. That has to be sitting square. Can't be sitting over to one side, they have to lock in. That one's sitting there. And we have 2 on this bend, and then 1 up at the switch. Seems a bit trivial, but if you can't get them in now, you forget whereabouts they're going. It's an absolute pain later, because they only fit in one way with the rest of the wiring. And as well, take note of which side's which on the switch, the red and the black. If you mix these around, the motor will still run, but the forward and reverse will be reversed. So whenever you're putting it onto forward, it'll actually run backwards. It's not a big deal, but extremely annoying for the person that owns the machine. Try to put these in the right way. Take the twist out of that when I'm at it. It's been a kink if I leave it the way it was. Another one of these boys here, and this wee wiring loom, that's clicking on here. You have to switch on here first, hook it on to the lever, and just drop it down and put the wire in down here. Once that's pressed down, this other wiring loom go on top. This is just a wee switch for easy start. Put the finer wires to the bottom and slide in your controller. Make sure it goes onto these little grooves here. It's not too difficult when it's being reused the same loom, because everything's already molded to the shape it needs to go. It should just basically drop on. This boy here, if you are replacing it, you'll just need a soldering iron to actually unsolder these and swap them all over to the new battery retainer. Pop that on. Everything sort of just gets squeezed into this corner, but just make sure the actual track, there's nothing getting nipped, because it's not hard to get something caught. That's the motor on and the wiring on. Don't forget about your little lens as well for your LED. That's the one that always drops out and people forget to put on. I know I've done it enough times. And that should be her. The next tricky bit is just getting it installed onto here and putting the hammer section back on. Pull that out a little bit. Now this is a hex end, so it's sometimes easier just to line it up so the hex is in the same location. And just drop it on. You might need a couple of turns. To get it to fit. There we go. And then just drop all that back into the housing. Should slide on fairly tight. This fan should be sitting, or this air deflector should be sitting loose. It's sliding in between the two halves of the housing here. And then make sure your motor is sitting down again. And that should be you with the new motor fitted. Just get on the other half of your housing now. Again, you have to get it past the gearbox housing first. Once you're past there, the rest should slide on fairly easily. You hope. Just watch that battery retainer, make sure it goes on. It should all close on its own. As in, whenever you squeeze it down, the body should sit down flat. You don't need the screws to actually close up the gaps. It should close down on its own. If you're pushing it and it's springing back up, you're caught in a wire somewhere. If it's not closing, there's something not fitted right. Don't be using the screws to actually close it on tight. It doesn't need that there. It should just click together and stay together. If there's anything lifting it back up, it's something wrong on the inside, and check that. Open her up again, make sure everything's right. This little rubber boot, make sure it's clicked on both sides. And that should be it. And this battery retainer is on a spring. That sometimes doesn't click in. You have to make sure both sides of the spring are engaged. It's in the right location. But this should have a wee bit of a spring to it. So that's alright. After the body on, you can just shove in the gearbox. You can rattle it on, twist it, push it at the same time, but sometimes it just doesn't go in. Get your battery and gently pull the trigger and push at the same time. Just that little rotation will get it to go on. And that should be this Bosch running right again. So that is how you replace the motor on a Bosch 36 volt. Eventually they will wear out, but this one has just been ran too hard until it's overheated. So it's drawing too much amps now whenever you run it on the machine. That high amps is getting the motor to overheat very quickly. So after a couple of holes you're starting to smoke and smell. So that's gone. Now with it replaced, it should run at full power again. There we go. So you can run harder and longer for now with a new motor. So that's it, folks. That's how you replace the motor, the 36 volt DC motor, and the new Bosch GBH 36VF-LI Plus. Not a great setup, to be honest. You'd much rather a universal motor, but that's what Bosch went for. Instead of upgrading to a brushless one, they've downgraded to a DC. So eventually, if you have one of these machines, you will have to replace this here motor. Normally, you get a good few years out of it, but you eventually have to change it when the brushes wear out of it, or if it starts burning like this here. But that's how you do it if you ever need to. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Hope somebody out there finds this helpful. If you're enjoying the tool repair videos, as always, folks, make sure you give us a wee like down the bottom. And if you want to help out the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button too. Until next time, I'll chat to you later.